Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is SK CryptoK, and today we are going to cover all of the recent activity on the Elephant token and the ecosystem at large, which has come under attack, and whether this is a good buying opportunity for what the future holds. Let's get into it.
Yo, appreciate your time and just know that I'm SK CryptoK, and today you should join my crypto club. Maybe by the end earn some dividends, so in advance I'ma thank you right now for that sub. Hey! Yo, let's go.
Thank you everybody for taking the time to watch this video. Let me preface everything by saying that I am not a financial advisor, and these are for entertainment and informational purposes only.
Oh man, this is gonna be a tough one.
Yep, it certainly is not pretty, but let's analyze everything. So if you've seen the chart, you know that the Elephant token has had a parabolic run for all of 2022 so far and was going crazy. So you can see it just kept going up. There was an elephant graveyard rebalance right there, and then it just kept going up. All the meanwhile, for several months, there were scammers that were DMing folks from the Elephant Telegram and getting them to connect and approve their wallets to zap their Elephant tokens, up until this moment right here, where there was a coordinated sell-off of those scammer tokens, which created panic dumping. I imagine those scammers bought back, dumped again, ultimately until there was a flash loan attack that completely wiped out the Elephant Treasury, which, if you remember, came about whenever the TRUNK token was created back in October. And then towards the end of November, you had the Stampede protocol come out, which further gobbled up more Elephant token and sent it into the Treasury. So throughout the months of December and into January, you had more and more tokens that were being bought by the TRUNK protocol and stuffing it into the Elephant Treasury, which, remember, 500 trillion tokens are locked in the graveyard. And then on top of that protocol-owned liquidity, you had the Treasury, which was being stuffed with extra trillions worth of tokens, to where you started to see a little bit of a squeeze on the token supply to drive the price upward. And so you had some elevated activity on the Elephant token all throughout these months of January, February, and then you started to hit critical mass where the Elephant Treasury had grown above 175 trillion tokens, which put a squeeze on the price, which sent it up parabolically.
Yep, that's one rapid rise.
Yep, and not all of it was from people purely buying Elephant token. You have to remember, it was already doing that because of the Elephant Treasury. And so yes, you did have some people buying in on just the Elephant token itself, but the protocol-owned liquidity was doing exactly as designed and would have continued a healthy run-up had this flash loan attack not occurred. So as exponentially as the price rose, thanks to the Elephant Treasury, is also exponentially how that price crashed when the Elephant Treasury was exploited. And so what you have now is the bare bones Elephant token and some of the liquidity from TRUNK still providing the value here. So ultimately the price bottomed out here, some buyback activity was occurring, and then another small exploit happened right there before everything was completely paused so that fixes can go into place. So unfortunately at this point, for all of the folks who bought in the month of March and was FOMOing into the system, you are at a loss. However, everybody else that bought prior is sitting in modest profit, assuming you haven't sold.
Whoa, so what's gonna happen now? Is this project completely dead?
No, I wouldn't go as far as to say that. It's just a matter of how the developer bounces back from this to rebuild, reinforce, and stuff more Elephant token back into the Treasury so that the price can overall go back on an appreciation spree, because the model has already proven to work, and whatever exploit that happened right here can never happen again. So I'll have a link to this Medium article that has live updates down in the description below. But to quickly review what the developer himself is saying is basically there was a coordinated exploit by several bad actors in the space. And to start, we have not been administratively hacked and nothing has changed on the network from a contract perspective. However, several smart contracts and resources were used to automate an attack against the Elephant Treasury, which again was the protocol-owned mechanism that I mentioned earlier that was putting a supply shock squeeze on the price of Elephant. So as exponentially as it went up is how exponentially it went down, because that treasury was busted. Whereas with its intended use, it would modestly pay off all of the Stampede and Trunk debt owed without ever tanking the Elephant price. But getting back into it, the actions they're taking now is to pause the reserve function and disable Stampede with all minting and redeeming of Trunk as they investigate the attack with CryptoK and InsureAce. So actions you should take are: do not sell, certainly do not answer DMs, and know that your funds fundamentally in the Elephant token are safe, because this was an exploit on the Trunk Treasury side of things, which they say right here, the base layer of the Elephant Money platform is secure and has stood up to the challenge. The exploit of the reserve will be addressed and we will move on. So there's a ton of information to read here, but just to highlight some aspects here, basically $11.2 million were robbed out of the treasury. And this was a brute force attack that took upwards of $261 million to break through the system's natural defenses. And as this project gains popularity, obviously you're going to gain more enemies too. So Elephant has defended against all manners of attacks since its inception a year ago, and this exploit got through, and its delivery was planned and timed. We are building this solution for generations to come, and we must be tested. And overall, this is not a win for crypto in general. A lot of these investors are in the same exact projects, so we shouldn't be resorting to tribalism and celebrating the loss of other platforms, because ultimately when we all thrive, the money will flow from project to project interchangeably, raising the tide and lifting all ships.
So continuing on.
Basically, update 6 here shows that Peck Shield put together a summary of what happened in the exploit, but essentially a flash loan was borrowed from PancakeSwap and injected into a cleverly designed smart contract, which then used the Trunk reserve against itself, taking advantage of the imbalance of the liquidity pools for Elephant BNB and Elephant BUSD. So 131,000 BNB was taken out to exchange for 37 trillion Elephant, which then makes the BNB Elephant pair imbalanced. Then it minted $91 million worth of Trunk, swapped $22 million as 3 trillion Elephant to an imbalanced pool, deposited it into the treasury, and then did just a number of cycles between this, ultimately to where it drained out $11 million from the Elephant treasury.
And also with all of that activity, 2 separate graveyard rebalances also occurred,
which, if you understand the system, always puts some sell pressure on the chart while keeping the liquidity locked. But it doesn't help that 10 trillion tokens also added to the large red candle that occurred. Coming down further, InsureAce looks like they've got some recommendations on how these flash loan attacks can occur, because this was not your average attack. This took $250 million to have happen. But essentially, they suggest what can be done as far as redeem delays and single asset pools, so there's no leveraging and arbitraging between 2 different pools can occur. And with many of these recommendations, there were already some of them that were planned for version 5 of Stampede, which was just around the corner, particularly steps 2, 3, and 5 above. Coming down a little bit further, it looks like the money has been found in these wallet addresses right here. And as a best case win-win scenario, the hacker could receive 10% of the commission of the funds exploited if they return 90% back to the system, which they offer in exchange for these services. Elephant Money would not pursue criminal action against the hacker.
which, if you ask me, it's not a bad deal.
It certainly is better than looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life.
But let's assume that money's never coming back. So let's continue on what's going to change in the future.
There's another aspect here where CryptoK says that the flash loan attack leading to the $11 million loss came from the Treasury contract, which is unverified and unaudited. And just for clarification here, it was the Elephant Reserve that was exploited with the redeem function specifically, not the Elephant Treasury. In addition, the Elephant Reserve was audited and reviewed with Solidity Finance with some proof here And the unverified aspect of it is because the Elephant Reserve remains closed sourced for competitive reasons. That way, everything in Elephant Money cannot just be carbon copied and cloned. The developer was not aware of the gravity of how this exploit would occur and at what time it would. So when they reached out to different auditors such as RugDoc and Paladin and other developers in the space, they basically refused to help out or educate on the gravity of such an exploit.
So ultimately, the buck stops with Bank Teller.
He did mess up, but it would be nice if the crypto community could help each other out at large. Coming down to update 14, it looks like this is detailing the smaller flash loan attack that occurred right here. That small dip right there before everything else was paused. So essentially what's going to happen here to prevent further attacks is that the treasury funds for both Elephant and BUSD have been moved to the Elephant deployer, the main contract, shown by these transactions here. And new treasury contracts will be spun up for Elephant, BUSD, and Trunk going forward with fresh whitelists so that retired contracts cannot be exploited to manipulate the funds going forward.
So from here on, you shouldn't see any more attacks,
as everything is locked up tight. And lastly, development of the emergency patch of Stampede and Reserve v4.3 has begun. This patch will disable redemptions and allow the system to run as normal otherwise. Trunk holders will need to leverage the pancake swap pairs and the Trunk BUSD LP to move in and out of Trunk. In addition, minting will still be available when version 4.3 is released. And lastly, update 16 right here is a statement from InsureAce, which basically says they finished the investigation regarding the Elephant Money exploit and that they would like to provide more information on the incident and what's actually covered under their smart contract vulnerability clause had you paid for insurance in advance and were redeeming your trunk at a lower peg, which can reimburse you money. However, when it comes to the actual Elephant token price depreciation, that is not covered in this because ultimately the Elephant token itself was not hacked. It was just the Elephant treasury was drained.
Oh man, still, what a major bummer, huh? I just can't believe it.
It's definitely not looking good. However, community sentiment actually remains pretty high. And despite what's occurred, there's still a ton of activity happening on the token. And I think that it speaks volumes that the developer is not abandoning this project, but if anything, using this attack as a learning experience and reinforcing the contract because we know it works. And with the version 5 patch of Trunk Stampede coming out,
it will not only patch up the hole that caused the exploit, but will aggressively feed the Elephant treasury
to where in no time we will see those parabolic prices come back and your profits return as well. Because ultimately, when it comes to this system, this gut punch that the Elephant Money ecosystem took really only changed the time horizon for the profits. And I firmly believe if this had occurred on any other token or project, that it would be down and out for the count. However, the fundamentals of the Elephant token remain untouched, and even the low price right now is higher than what it's been all of last year until these additions were stacked on top of the Elephant token, which caused the parabolic run-up. Even though those additions were compromised, they can be strengthened and built such that it will mimic the success of what happened before. And even though some would be quick to try to label the developer as a scammer or having rugged this project, that is simply not true. And before too long, you are going to have an ecosystem with a story to tell that will look back on this as a trying moment, and how the community and the developer reacts to this will be the defining narrative. Also, when it comes to the Trunk page itself, do not pay attention to any of the numbers right now. Everything is paused, and because of the draining of the treasury, you have a number of these percentages that are actually inflated, but they will be adjusted back down in this native staking case roughly to about 65% after all the fixes are in place, and it's good to go. In addition to that, every one of the stats down here will also be adjusted. You can see here the cash treasury, the elephant treasury, everything has been reset as all the contracts are being rewritten to not only avoid a future exploit in this manner, but to also aggressively build back the elephant treasury, which again, if you remember, this is the entire reason why the elephant token price was appreciating. And the elephant treasury is designed to be the #1 whale that cannot dump on you and is also the one that's paying back all of the Stampede debt. So soon enough, you will have version 4.3 of Stampede Trunk come out. That will serve as an emergency patch that at least allows you to mint and redeem Trunk based on the pancake liquidity pair.
However, it is version 5 of Trunk Stampede
that will aggressively build back the elephant treasury and get this overall system back into play, because we know the model works. And while there's no time frame out there on when version 5 and everything's going to be patched together, just know that the new contracts being written are being audited by different groups as well. And that if you believe in the system, one of the worst things you can actually do is claim and sell your trunk. Because you can best believe that when patch 4.3 comes out, there are going to be paper hands that sell, and it's going to destabilize the peg, and you'll be losing trunk anywhere from 60 to 90 cents on the dollar, which will create good buying opportunities for those who want to buy like a 70-cent trunk. But overall, I believe in the system and think that it can bounce back. And the best thing any participant in Trunk Stampede can do is actually just take advantage of the lower peg and mint new trunk, and also keep rolling until everything stabilizes. Because once that treasury's back up, everything's going to be good to go. So not financial advice, but stay patient. Don't panic and allow the system to work the way it was designed.
So folks, hang in there and ultimately hold the faith that this token will transcend your typical crypto circles and will go up again.
So obviously, do your own research. Don't just take my word for it. I believe in the system personally and think it will recover. However, you are free to choose what you believe.
So folks, that's all I have for this video. Stay tuned for more updates and future content that I provide. And if you enjoyed this, please smash that like button and hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell. And until next time, everybody, please stay safe out there, stay blessed, and make good choices with your crypto.